So by now you've all heard, today we're remembering the dedication of the Basilica of St. John Lateran. So, what is that? In the city of Rome, there are 4 major basilicas. The first 3 are St. Peter's in Vatican City. There's the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls, and the Basilica of St. Mary Major. The 4th is the Archbasilica Cathedral of the Most Holy Savior and of Saints John the Baptist and John the Evangelist in the Lateran, also called St. John Lateran. That's the more common name. Of the 4 major basilicas, the oldest and most important is St. John Lateran, the mother church of the Archdiocese of Rome and the mother church of the entire world. Now, the church itself and the area surrounding it has a long and storied history. The Emperor Nero accused Plautius Lateranus of assisting in a plot to kill him, and so he beheaded Lateranus, confiscated his home, which was a very nice palace, and all the surrounding areas. When Constantine the Great became the sole ruler of the Western Roman Empire, and he became a Christian, he took possession of the Lateran Palace and those surrounding grounds, and then he built a church and donated it to the Pope as his church. It was the first. The Christian church now had its first cathedral in the heart of Rome, beautifully decorated, with the Roman emperor's full support. It's one of Rome's most imposing churches. The Lateran's towering facade, the front, is crowned with 15 colossal statues of Christ, John the Baptist, John the Evangelist, and 12 doctors of the church. I've been there at least 3 times, and even the statues inside of the apostles and saints are as big as Michelangelo's David. I mean, they're 3-4 times our size. They're huge. And beneath its high altar rest the remains of a small wooden table that tradition holds St. Peter himself celebrated Mass. Pretty interesting place. If you do go to Rome, you must visit. So how does this tie into our readings? The first reading from the prophet Ezekiel, it's part of a beautiful image of fresh water flowing from the future temple in Jerusalem, bringing new life and fertility to wherever it flows. This fresh and clean water, in the reading we just heard, is flowing east into the Dead Sea. And the prophecy says it will make it fresh again. And wherever the river flows, every sort of living creature that can multiply shall live. For wherever the water comes, the sea shall be made fresh. It's an image that sets the Temple of Jerusalem as the source of life for all. And in today's celebration, it points to the life that comes to the world through the communities which gather together in a church like St. John Lateran and all of our cathedrals and our church right here. Again, it's not the building which is the source of life, but the community which gathers together to pray. In the second reading from the first letter to the Corinthians, Paul speaks very strongly of the Christian community as the true temple of God. I laid a foundation, and another is building upon it. Paul sees himself as a builder, but it's not a building of bricks and mortar he is erecting, but a building of people, the people of God. And he's only initiating the work. Others will take over from him and continue the process. And this building of faith can have only one foundation, and that is Jesus Christ. He concludes in words that leave no room for doubt. Are you not aware that you are a temple of God and that the Spirit of God lives in you? The gospel reading is John's account of Jesus cleansing the temple. We all know it well. In the synoptics, they report this event as happening just before the Passion. But in John's gospel, it happens much earlier, very early in the story, soon after the wedding at Cana. We're told that Jesus has gone up to Jerusalem from Galilee because the Passover feast was near. And when he entered the entrance to the temple, he found people selling oxen, sheep, and doves to be offered by pilgrims as sacrifices. And there were also money changers, because Roman currency could not be used in the temple. And so you had to exchange the Roman currency for Jewish shekels. Jesus wasn't happy at all about these activities. He made a small whip of cords and began driving out those selling the animals, overturned the tables of the money changers. Get out of here! Stop turning my Father's house into a marketplace. Of course, what the sellers were doing was not against the law. In fact, it was a necessary service. The problem was where they were doing it. That kind of commerce should have never been taking place right there at the temple. We all know hawkers. They try to get as close as they can to the action, and these guys were no different. But it was totally inappropriate. And some of the Jews challenged Jesus. What sign can you show us authorizing you to do such things? So who were these Jews? Probably they were the priests and officials of the temple who were getting a cut from the hawkers. And they didn't want to see their business model changed. And Jesus gave them a strange answer. Destroy this temple, and I will raise it in 3 days. And of course, they took him literally. It took 46 years to build this temple, and you are going to raise it in 3 days? No way. But as John comments, Jesus was talking about the temple of his body. And it was only after the resurrection that the disciples came to understand the meaning of those words. And they're words that we need to remember even today. A church is sacred because it is dedicated to the worship of God. St. John Lateran is the Pope's cathedral from which the entire church is governed. But in celebrating today's feast, we're being reminded to focus more on the temple of our bodies than on a building, however important and beautiful it might be. In the beginning, there were no church buildings. People met in each other's homes, wherever they could as a community. If St. John Lateran, St. Peter's, and all the churches in the world were just to fall down, the real temple of God would continue in each one of us here today. As Jesus said, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them.
Please like, subscribe, and comment below. God bless you.